What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Now, I've got the end of the year report for the Supreme Court. He put out this report. Check it out. We'll get into it right quick. Chief Justice Roberts warns of 4 areas of concern in end of the year report. This is great. So, before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a big favor and smash that like button, subscribe, share this video anywhere and everywhere that you can. Now, we discuss a lot of topics in this, and we're going to break all this stuff down, but we've got, once again, left-wing news, and they just get it wrong, and they're trying to manipulate everybody. They're trying to manipulate the report a little bit, so let's break all this down right quick, y'all. Check it out. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts on Tuesday addressed 4 areas of illegitimate activity that he said threaten the independence of judges: violence, intimidation, disinformation, and threats to defy lawfully entered judgments. Yeah, we're going to break all this down, and you'll see the manipulations they try to pull over on you. But let's keep going. Why it matters. Of course, all these things matter, but why it matters. The report was released following a tumultuous year in which the nation's courts were unusually entangled in a tightly contested presidential race. During this time, then, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump, who faced a host of criminal charges that he denied, repeatedly attacked the integrity of the judicial system. Yeah, and he did that for very, very good reason, because they kept violating his due process rights and still finding him guilty anyway, right? Which was outright ridiculous. You had this civil fraud trial over here where nobody was defrauded, but they found him guilty anyway. Like, come on, this is kind of ridiculous. Then you had the criminal trial where they violated due process rights on several occasions, right? It wasn't just one, it was several occasions. And you had this sham of a court. Everybody can see is fake, right? And it wasn't that he didn't commit the crime, because you break down all the evidence. Yeah, he sure did. He committed the misdemeanor of he falsified a business record a couple of times, right? It wasn't 34 counts. But it was a couple of counts, definitely, of falsifying business records, which, in the state of New York, is a misdemeanor. But, yep, that got elevated in furtherance of another crime, which they couldn't define at all, not until the jury instructions, which is at the very end of the trial, right before they go to deliberate or whatever on the verdict. And it's like the jury instructions were a multiple choice. Yeah, that's very questionable. I can see how that would be questioned. The legitimacy of that entire court right there should be called into question, because they, once again, violated due process. That it was just a sham of a court. It wasn't real, in other words. And hey, I totally get that. And hey, that might be biased a little bit, because hey, look, I'm behind Donald Trump. I'm like, yay, go right ahead. But I'm not so stiff in my positions, right, that I can't say, yes, he did something wrong there, but what you're charging him with as a felony is just utter nonsense. It's a misdemeanor. Charge him with that. Give him the maximum penalty if you want to. I don't care. Overcharge him for the misdemeanor, whatever. But it's not a felony. He didn't do those other crimes. He was never charged with none of those. Right? So how can you find him guilty? Right? It's just, it was all ridiculousness. So, yeah, he had every right to question the legitimacy, because it was an illegitimate court. But let's keep going before I rant on forever, because that was just absurd. Newsweek reached out via email to the Supreme Court. Yeah, they asked for comments. Yeah, it's something else I would love to address right quick. You notice they always do this in these corporate press news articles. They'll say, we reached out for comment. And then they won't ever say if they comment. Like sometimes they will, but sometimes they won't. Like they don't in this one. They say, we reached out to Donald Trump for comment, and that's it. They just go and they change the subject. Like, did he comment? Did he not comment? Like, tell us something. But what to know? The Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, has come under heightened scrutiny since its 2022 decision to gut the constitutional right to an abortion, which was established in Roe v. Wade. Once again, now that is just plain manipulation right there, because abortion was never a constitutional right. You're getting it wrong. That was a court decision. Court decisions are not constitutional rights. I'm sorry, it may lead to a constitutional right eventually, but abortion is not a constitutional right. Plus, it did not get rid of that right anyway, right? It diverted it back to the states. That's all it did. It just says the federal government has nothing to do with this. We don't want to decide if abortion is within the federal jurisdiction or not. That's a state's decision. That's all it did. It's like, no, it didn't give up anybody's rights. Now it's up to the state to decide within their constitution if it's a constitutional right or not. That's what it did. Be correct. But yeah, they faced scrutiny too, but not so much. It was only partisan scrutiny. They could say stuff like that, but it is what it is. Conservative justices face significant backlash from abortion rights advocates and protests near their homes when the draft 22 opinion in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Organization was leaked. In June 2022, Nicholas John Roske, I'm going to say Roske, I'm sure that's not how it's pronounced, but it just sounds better that way. Roske. A California resident was arrested near Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home in Maryland. At the time of his arrest, Roske was found to be in possession of a firearm, a knife, and zip ties. An FBI affidavit obtained by the Associated Press said Roske told authorities that he was angered at Kavanaugh over the leaked opinion. Yeah, we can't be doing this, y'all. In its 15-page report, Roberts expressed concerns over the rising threats of violence against judges nationwide, calling such actions wholly unacceptable and adding that they could undermine our republic. And he's totally right about that. We can't have these rogue vigilantes getting out there. Just because you disagree with their decision doesn't mean you have the right to commit violence upon these people, right? You never have that right, as a matter of fact, unless somebody is committing violence upon you, which in that case, you do have a right to defend yourself. He also highlighted the threat of disinformation about court rulings to judicial independence, noting that social media can amplify distortions and be exploited by hostile foreign state actors to deepen divisions. Oh my God, right? The disinformation. You gotta love that. The Chief Justice went on to decry elected officials across the political spectrum who have raised the specter of open disregard for federal court rulings. Roberts did not mention, get this, okay, this is where we're getting into the major manipulation right here. This is insane. Roberts did not mention President-elect Trump in his report, but he emphasized that even when court decisions are unpopular or represent a setback for a presidential administration, other branches of government must still enforce them to uphold the rule of law. He referenced the landmark 1952 Brown v. Board of Education ruling, which desegregated schools and required federal enforcement against resistance from Southern governors. Now, what in that had anything to do with Donald Trump, right? The insinuation there is that Donald Trump was not upholding the court rulings, and hang on, they just brought racism into this thing for no reason. Like, what did Brown v. Board have to do with anything that Donald Trump did? Like, manipulation right there. It's insane coming from these people, and that's Newsweek. Now, Newsweek is kind of like The Hill, right? Sometimes you'll get very citrus people writing news articles trying to be fair. You get these far left ones, and I'm sure you get right-wing articles, but I don't read those, right? If I see anything that is biased toward the right, I pretty much don't cover it. I'll try to find a corresponding article that's left-wing on purpose, or at least a centrist, right? I try to stay away from right-wing news because I consider myself, right, center of right, or right of center, sorry. So I don't care about what we're saying over here on our side. I care about what the other side is saying and the manipulations that are coming from that, because when you have corporate press like this, people take this stuff seriously, and a lot of people, they just read it and take that information in and think it's true, right? Like, why did they even mention Donald Trump in that paragraph? Roberts did not mention President-elect Trump in his report, but he emphasized that even when court decisions are unpopular or represent a setback for a presidential administration, right? He's not even president. Other branches of government must still enforce them to uphold the rule of law. Now, I can guarantee you, I know exactly, like from my biased brain, like take that with a grain of salt. This is coming from my bias of news articles that I've read. That has nothing to do with Donald Trump and has everything to do with Joe Biden, as a matter of fact. But did they mention Joe Biden in here at all? No, they didn't. Why is that? Because they are biased as well. So I'm going to offset that bias. I mean, you may think that has something to do with Donald Trump, and maybe Roberts should have mentioned Donald Trump. I don't see that. I mean, I do. Okay, I'll take that back. I do see some of it because Donald Trump has railed against some of these judicial decisions that have been made, and for very good reason, right? Because he's in opposition to those. I get it, but that's not taking to account that Joe Biden has outright defied the Supreme Court, not just once, not just twice, but several times, right? You got the student debt relief plan twice. All right, you have the southern border, several times on the southern border, as a matter of fact, and then you had the OSHA thing with the vaccine mandates, right? That got struck down. Oh, and I almost forgot about the violation of First Amendment rights, right? He defied court orders in that as well. They put an injunction saying you can't have backdoor access to have backdoor access to social media platforms to shut voices down on social media. That's what the Biden administration has defied court orders, one after another, after another, after another. So when I see that, I think Joe Biden. Now, I don't, like I said, I don't understand why they think, oh, Donald Trump defied court orders. Like, what court order did Donald Trump defy? Just seriously. Like, I understand he come out and spoke against some of these court orders, saying it's a sham, blah, 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 blah. You know, he reduced confidence in the judicial system. But was it Trump that reduced confidence in the judicial system by railing against a decision that was from a sham court? Like we talked about earlier? I mean, come on now. Seriously. But let's keep going. Roberts wrote in the end of the year report, attempts to intimidate judges for their rulings in cases are inappropriate and should be vigorously opposed. He added that while public officials have the right to criticize rulings, they should also be aware that their statements can prompt dangerous reactions by others. Of course, the courts are no more infallible than any other branch, Roberts wrote. In hindsight, some judicial decisions were wrong, sometimes egregiously wrong, and it was right of critics to say so. In a democracy, especially like ours, with robust First Amendment protections, criticisms comes with the territory. It can be healthy. No, it should be incentivized. Just outright. Should be incentivized. We need to criticize these courts when they're wrong. Journalist Chris Geidner, who operates the widely read legal blog Law Dork, wrote on X, formerly Twitter, conflating violence against judges with broad criticism the court faces for its extremism. Chief Justice John Roberts ultimately sent a chilling end-of-the-year report today. No, I don't think he was conflating those two things, because there were threats of violence, and they caught people. People went to jail for threats of violence against these judges. That's not conflating criticism that's not being conflated with criticism, because you can have genuine criticism. Oh, like Donald Trump, for instance, genuinely criticizing these people where they need to be criticized. Then you got Joe Biden over here outright defying Supreme Court orders, federal judges, all the like, just defying them outright on several key places, right? Like I mentioned earlier, the border, OSHA with the vax mandates. Blah, 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 blah. You get it, right? You know, the only thing that Donald Trump has done is just openly defied these rulings in the face of just sham judgments, to be honest with you. Like, some of it was, some of it wasn't, right? Some of the criticisms Trump had were just like, come on, dude. Like, seriously, some of his criticisms were unfounded criticisms. I'll be honest about that. I can be honest. But these people won't mention Joe Biden at all, defying Supreme Court, defying federal courts, and none of these. But Justice Roberts is not conflating those two, just outright. And that's the end of that article. They don't try to push back against that opinion that was. This is just brought to you as news. Well, no, I'm sorry. You got to push back on some of these things. You got to give the other side of the opinion over here if you're going to give out an opinion, because that's not what was being done here. But I think that's all I got for this one, y'all. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. This is just something, happy freaking New Year, if you will. We got this report, and I just thought it was great. It's just another manipulation by the corporate press I figured I would point out. But y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay logical. Peace.